In this video, I'm going to be going over every main piece of gear that I use and recommend for you if you're starting luxury real estate videography in 2026. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Studio Sunday YouTube channel, where we like to show you and teach you everything real estate videography. If you're new here, please consider clicking that subscribe button. It would mean the world to me, all right? But you don't have to. Just watch the video first and then make your decision at the end, okay? I'll remind you. If you click this video because you want to know what gear you should have for shooting real estate, this is the video. But I want you to know we're not going to be talking about budget-friendly, best bang for your buck or anything like that. We're going to be talking about the main pieces of gear that I personally use after 2 years of trial and error, and what I fell on and what I fell in love with. And I won't be changing any of this stuff unless, something crazy comes out that I'm like, okay, I have to, I got to upgrade, I got to switch. But what I have right now works every single day, from something on the lower end to homes that could be sold for 50 or even upward of $100 million. I'm using the same exact gear every single time. This is gear that I researched heavily. I watched like 50 million YouTube videos and ended on this list right here. Everything's in the description below. You could buy it if you want, but at the end of the day, do your own research, okay? Or don't. Do your own research though, and buy what works for you, because we all have different scenarios, different goals, different preferences. So just buy what works for you. But anyway, let's get into it. First, we have to start with what's obvious, and that is the camera. And I am shooting on the Sony A7S III. Honestly, I probably won't change cameras until Sony drops the A7S4, but this thing is an absolute workhorse and I use it every single day and I've never had it fail me. It's got around 15 stops of dynamic range, which is huge, especially if you're shooting luxury real estate videography, because of those big windows. You're gonna wanna see the views, you're gonna wanna see the inside, and you wanna keep all the information as much as possible within the highlights, within the shadows. It's super important, and it's what's gonna elevate your videos like crazy. Now, I used to live in the Midwest where homes averaged around $400,000. They didn't have the big windows, they didn't have the bright interiors, and this camera was great even then because I got to maintain the information of all the darkness on the inside without blowing out those windows. That's super important. On top of that, obviously, it's got the dual native ISO, which means I can shoot at nighttime and not have to worry. Just crank it up to 12,800. I open up that aperture and I just start shooting. I don't have to worry about it, and it always looks stunning. Now, everything inside of this camera is pretty much exactly the same as the FX3. The only thing that's different is the body and having the ability to use a viewfinder. I used to shoot solely on an FX3, and that screen would deceive me all the time. I would go home, plug my card in, and be like, that does not look great. But here I get to look through the viewfinder and the screen, and it gives me that extra layer of confidence when I'm shooting, and it helps me with exposure and the coloring, and it's just great. Okay, so you're gonna want to spring for this instead of the FX3. I know the FX3 looks cool, okay, that's why I had it, but this one is just a little better. Let's move on. As far as lenses go, you're gonna wanna start with this bad boy right here. This is the Laowa 12mm manual focus lens, and this thing is just a workhorse. I know there's a lot of debate, right? Is it the 10? Is it the 12? Do I get the Sony 14? This is a beast. I know there's a couple different versions of this lens, even some newer ones that have come out, but I'm going to stick with this one right here because it is just built super solid, and the colors that come out of this thing are amazing. I noticed with the newer ones, there's some vignetting on the edges and the colors look a little bit faded, sometimes a little too hazy, even when you're properly exposed, and I just don't like that. So I'm gonna stick with what I'm confident in. This thing is just built super solid and it feels great. The next lens that I'm bringing to every single shoot is the Sony 16 to 35mm f2.8 G Master lens. This thing is a beast, and I can't show it to you in my hands right now because it's on my camera. This lens I'm not bringing out of the bag too often, but when I do, it's for my more creative shots, and it gives me a lot of versatility with that 16 to 35. It's not too wide like the 12, and it's also not gonna be too tight like most of your detail lenses. This one is just super versatile, especially if you're doing run and gun shooting and you don't have a lot of time at the property or something like that. You could just pop this lens on and get a lot of really creative shots that feel super beautiful. Most of the time when I'm using this lens, I'm putting it on my tripod and I'm using it to get texture shots, time lapses, stills. This lens is just sharp from edge to edge, and even though I don't use this lens a lot, it's still amazing, and I honestly don't know what I would do without it. The last lens I want to talk about is this Sony 50mm G Master 1.4 lens, and this is the lens that I use the most. Out of anything else in my bag, this is what I'm reaching for the most. This lens is going to be perfect for your detail shots, stuff to add more cinematic flair to your videos. It's just so crisp and beautiful, and it has that shallow depth of field, especially if you go all the way up to 1.4 on your aperture. And besides shooting the details in your real estate videos, it's a perfect lens to use for your agents on camera if you're shooting social media reels or even horizontals. The result from this lens is just so amazing, and it's never let me down. And if anyone tells you that you should buy a 1.2 instead of a 1.4, save yourself $1,000. Buy the 1.4 because a 1.2 is for chumps or really good photographers. Which one are you? Next is a super important and obvious piece, and that is going to be your gimbal. And I use the DJI RS4 Pro. This gimbal is a beast, and even though some people say it's a little excessive having the Pro instead of the regular, I use the Pro because it just stabilizes a lot better, especially if I'm doing horizontal to vertical. It just doesn't shake. There's no issues. I could do any shot I want, any crazy movement, and there's no shakes. If you have an RS4 regular or any other gimbal, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You try to get a certain shot and then your gimbal starts shaking even though it's balanced and calibrated and all that. This, I don't run into that ever, just with my A7S III and any of the lenses that are on there. I've had tons of gimbals leading up to this one. They've always had problems like shakiness, or I'd have to rebalance or recalibrate, but not this one. This one is a beast, and it's super important, especially in real estate videography, to not have to mess with your equipment so much because you might miss a moment, or you are limited on time in the property, or the light's coming in and you only have like 5 minutes to get it. You just don't want to miss anything, and the last thing you need to be doing is messing with your gear. Getting into something a little bit more fun, we have our drone. Now, I use the DJI Mavic 4 Pro, but you don't have to, okay? Hear me out. Don't get me wrong, I love this drone and all the capabilities it has. It's super cool and it has different functions that I absolutely love, but I could have stuck with my Mavic 3 Pro and done just fine, probably for another year. The only reason I have this one is because I got it at an excellent discount. So can you blame me? Honestly, this portion of the video, I'm gonna keep pretty broad and tell you that you can get just about any drone and do some pretty amazing stuff with them. I have friends who have the Air 2S still, the Air 3S, the Mavic 3 Pro, I have the Mavic 4 Pro, I have people who have the minis, and they're all doing incredible work. So don't overthink it, just get a drone. Okay, you need something in the sky. Now, if you're shooting a lot of people on camera talking, such as like the agents doing a walkthrough, the builders, the architects, you're gonna need some microphones that give you some quality audio. And I have two options that I roll with, and that's the DJI Mic Minis and the DJI Mic 2 Pros. I think they're Pros, or just the Mic 2. Honestly, I got the Mic Minis for those run and gun days, the days that you're shooting with a real estate agent and they're doing social media reels, so you don't really have to conceal your microphones as much or lob them up or anything like that. You just pop one of these little guys on the realtor, and then the other thing you throw on your camera. Got to make sure you're monitoring the audio because there's no internal recording on these, but I've never had an issue with them. They are absolutely nuts, and honestly, the realtors love them. As far as the Mic 2 Pros go, it's for the opposite reason. It's usually for interviews or something a little bit more high-end where I need to conceal the lavalier mic, and so these have the capability to plug in a lav mic, and they'll record internally as well, so you have that backup just in case the audio going straight in the camera isn't good enough. You always have a backup, and that's super important. So I would say you can get any one of these and get away with it. They also have other brands like Hollyland or Rode mics that have just as good as options, but I run DJI just because I'm pretty brand loyal, if you couldn't tell. Now, the last main thing that I use every single day are variable ND filters, and you're gonna wanna get those, especially if you're shooting real estate, shooting out windows, brighter areas, and you can get them from just about anywhere. I've gotten a couple off Amazon that are KNF Concepts, or I have a couple from Polar Pro, and they're all different stops, but the main one I use is a variable ND filter 2 to 5 stop, and it's from Polar Pro, and that makes my footage a ton better, and it really helps me control the light a lot more. So definitely want to get those. I'd say that about wraps it up. Now, I want to remind you, at the end of the day, this is the gear that I use, okay? This is the gear that I recommend because this is stuff that I don't stress about, think about. I just get to use and create, and at the end of the day, that's the biggest win for me. Anyway, if this video was helpful, drop a comment. Let me know what gear you're shooting on, what gear are you planning on upgrading to. I love seeing where you guys are at in your journey. If this video wasn't helpful, let me know. And if you want more real estate videography content, more behind the scenes, more tutorials, more of how I approach this world that we live in, go ahead and click subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.